Hello, everyone. This is week 3, and this is our final week of adding on to our formal memoir. This week, I want to just talk about something that we don't often think about in writing, and it's humor. So, as you were reading On the Rainy River last week, and there was this really intense description of the meat packing plant and what he smelled like, and he said that the smell of pig got into his flesh. And then he dropped a little line right in the middle. He said, needless to say, it was difficult for me to get dates that summer. And I bet you while you were reading it, you had this moment of, wait, is that supposed to be funny? And the truth of the matter is, it is. Because when you're telling an intense story, the art of dropping in moments of what we call levity or emotionless, think of emotion as a roller coaster. So if you're reading a story that's really intense, the the intensity rises and rises and rises, but you can't have a constant rise all the way to the end. There has to be peaks and valleys. So these little doses of levity or anecdotes or little kind of moments where we poke fun at ourselves, those allow the reader to basically take a breath and take a moment, and then you can start rising again with that tension and the nervousness. And authors use this a lot in basically making their story more readable, but also more real. Back to the guy at the fire telling the story that I was talking about last week. He tells this really intense, or she tells this really intense story, but in the midst of it, there's jokes and there's laughter, and that draws attention also. And writers can do that as well. So this week we're going to focus on a specific type of humor: satire. Satire is meant to poke fun at a situation. Sometimes you poke fun at yourself. What we're going to read this week is a passage from chapter 1 of a wonderful book called A Walk in the Woods. A Walk in the Woods is a book by Bill Bryson, and it tells the story of his journey on the Appalachian Trail. This comes after spending nearly 20 years living abroad in Europe. He's a famous kind of travel writer. He kind of coined the phrase "the ugly American," talking about what it was like to be an American in Europe and how Americans are kind of hapless travelers. So we're going to read that. And this week, instead of focusing on sensory language, I want you to focus on incidents of humor throughout the passage. And there are several. Like, there are some funny one-liners, there's funny anecdotes, which are side stories, and there's just funny moments that we get uncomfortable. So I think you'll really enjoy this passage. There's also a response to this. If you go here, I'm going to ask you. Bryson uses anecdotal comedy to allow the reader to better understand his fear and maybe regret at his choice of taking on this journey along the Appalachian Trail. Discuss how you can relate to this apprehension and his technique of laughing it off and doing it anyway. Is there an example in your own life? So oftentimes we do things and then we just have to laugh it off. Like, what was I thinking? For me, it was signing up to do a half marathon. And the first time I went out after signing up and I ran like 6 miles, I tried to run something a little longer. I was exhausted. And all I could think in truth was, what the hell did I get myself into? The regret was there, but then I just had to kind of laugh it off and go with it because this is what I signed up for. And I want you to think of situations like that. Then lastly, I have a link to a video, an excerpt from John Mulaney's stand-up New Kid in Town. It's his first original Netflix special, but I have a YouTube video for you to watch. I want you to watch just 4 minutes, from 4 minutes to 9 minutes, where he talks about stories from middle school. And he's basically doing exactly what we're talking about. The only difference is he's doing it as stand-up instead of in writing. And then what I would like you to do is, after you've done that and you've thought about it, I want you to go back to your formal memoir and think about moments where you can add that levity and look for those opportunities. So before you submit your final product, which is due at the end of this week, I would like you to try to add a little bit of that comic relief throughout. And I'm going to be looking for that as I read through it and grade it. So we're looking for sensory language, we're looking for certain comic relief, and we're looking for a compelling story that you are telling. Those are our three primary focal points in the end product that I'm looking for. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out, and good luck with the final product. And again, do not panic. Keep writing and keep going through the process. Eventually, you'll come up with something you're very comfortable submitting.